All right. Hey, everyone. Ariel Jarvis, Vitality Wellness. James Gardner from The Hero Within. We are here. It's Conversations on Vitality, which means it's Monday. Ariel, it's Monday.
It's Monday. I love Mondays.
I know, right?
Buckets
Yeah,
of knowledge.
I know, exactly. Start the week off with some nuggets of the brain. I'm excited about today's conversation because it's respiratory health. I've had asthma all my life. And as you know, my dad has also severe COPD. So it's something that's near and dear to my heart. And the the ability to not breathe is a scary thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a scary thing. So let's have a conversation. And we're going to talk, Ariel. This is exciting because we're just going to talk respiratory care. We're going to talk some smoking hacks that have worked for you and your clients, and vitality, how everything's connected to the four pillars, and let's go. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to start with the foundation, right? The general makeup of your respiratory system. So you have your lungs, which are 75% water, and they have their own individual ecosystem called a respiratory microbiome. And so what you need to realize is that you're mostly bacteria cells. You have more bacteria cells than human cells. And so bacteria, it poops, it pees, it throws off the pH. So you need to make sure that you're constantly feeding the right bacteria, right? So individuals, unfortunately, who are, because your lungs are 75% water, if you don't drink the right water, the respiratory cells can't absorb the negative charged ions. So therefore, it cannot maintain homeostasis in the ecosystem of the respiratory system. The second thing is you need to drink a lot of this negative charged water to maintain and flush any debris that is causing harm or inflammation. The third thing is avoiding mucus-forming foods, because when you consume things like high amounts or even low amounts, everybody's different and some people are sensitive. So all forms of dairy, all forms of gluten, all forms of processed fast foods, sugary foods, processed sugars, alcohol, and of course, smoking anything, right, whether that be marijuana or tobacco or other stuff, can create a lot of inflammation and mucus buildup along the endothelial cells that line the respiratory wall. We want to keep that area very clean so that our airway and pathways are not constricted. We want everything to be open so that oxygen uptake is efficient. So when it comes to those sorts of things, diet, water, that's all very important. But people don't realize that you also need to take into account detoxification. When you do high aerobic or anaerobic exercises, you are contracting the lungs and you're breathing a little heavier, which means now you can expel any waste that is creating inflammation in the respiratory system. And the fourth pillar is making sure that you are resting. So when you're actually sleeping, your body's in the parasympathetic state, which means now the microbiome and the ecosystem of the respiratory system can relax. So that's just maintenance. Now, some people who are following that protocol might still fall short. They might unfortunately have more of a genetic weakness when it comes to, or predisposition when it comes to their respiratory, or maybe they haven't taken care of their respiratory, or maybe their environment, they live in a very dusty house or a very dirty house, or they have a lot of indoor animals, just different things like that to take into account, because that is going to also disturb the ecosystem of the respiratory system. Okay, so we've covered the water. We've covered the negative charged water and drinking lots of it, the sleep, the exercise, and the diet. That's just maintenance.
And the interesting thing, I mean, because we've talked nutrition a lot, as we should, because it is a cornerstone to many things. You just listed, 90% of what people consume causes mucus, basically. Give us the flip side of that coin for everyone out there. What's the go-to for a zero, to mitigate mucus, let's say?
Follow a paleo-vegetarian diet. If you have Pinterest or you have Google, you can put in cheesecake, brownies, pumpkin pie, lasagna. You can put in nachos, anything, but you put in paleo vegetarian in front of it, and that will remove the sugar, the gluten, and the dairy.
There it
So
is.
substitutions would be like, instead of dairy from a cow, you would have plant-based options that are unsweetened. Because remember, just because it's plant-based, they put
Right.
tons of sugar in there. So
Right.
that's going to create mucus as well. So getting the, there's oat milk that you can get, but make sure it's plain, unsweetened. There's cashew, almond, there's hemp. Stay away from soy, just because, you know, us as individuals, we don't need too many of the soy products in the body for various reasons, which we won't get into. But just making sure that they're unsweetened. And then for cheese, my go-to is actually cashew cheese. It's delicious. Or things like, for yogurts, you can do the plant-based plain yogurt, or ice cream, plant-based plain ice cream. Or you can get the plant-based chocolate. So just finding the vegan options that are low sugar.
Yeah. Okay. And before we continue again, which was interesting because we talk exercise, obviously everyone out there knows exercise is healthy and valid. You brought just a nice light bulb, was that it's a detoxification process that happens within our lungs, which I thought was really interesting. So just for everyone out there, it's also about expelling and getting rid of. So I like that. That was really good.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed that, like, a smoker, if they go for a run, they're like hacking up all this mucus because their body's trying to expel, because it's not supposed to be in there.
Yeah. I remember my dad's smoker's cough in the morning. Oh my God. Like, it would wake up the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know?
And if
All
you're
that
waking up
mucus.
and you have congestion anywhere, it's your diet. So unfortunately, you're going to have to just cut it out.
So you're just, Ariel knows, cut it out. All right.
Cut it out. Be the adult.
Can we talk smoking, since I was just talking about my dad, because smoking is a big thing. It's a big thing. I don't think anybody agrees that it's a healthy thing. We just know that it's a hard thing. It's an addictive response in the body and in the mind. You've had a lot of success, actually, of Vitality, people coming in and putting them through a protocol. So let's talk about that.
So it's very exciting. I don't know why we've had such success rates, but every single patient that goes through our quit smoking program has quit smoking. And it's a holistic program, and we only invite 2 herbs. Okay. So mullein to get their capsules to get the mucus out, and lobelia to actually allow the brain to be able to give up the nicotine and the tobacco, which is really amazing. So what you do is, we sell this in store, the 2 herbs, and you want to make sure you're drinking tons of our negative charged water. So 3 to 4 liters a day, because you want to flush. And then making sure that you're taking the mullein 3 times a day, and then taking the lobelia with you. And what you do is, every time you want to go out for a smoke, you squeeze the lobelia into your mouth, you swallow it, and then you take your smoke. And what it does is, the chemical reaction in the brain creates instant nausea for the smoking. So now every time you have a puff, you want to throw up, or you do throw up, and eventually you get tired of that and you don't want to smoke anymore. So it trains your brain to be disgusted by the action of smoking. Some people need to have that actual fixation. So using things like a toothpick, or putting things like, you can like roll up a pen, like have a pen, or just anything that's sanitary, just so that you have that action, because some people, they need to have that action. If you're someone that smokes marijuana, just switching over to an edible would be better. And that way you're supporting your respiratory care.
So mullein and lobelia.
Mullein and lobelia.
Lobelia.
And lobelia is a liquid, and you can smoke
medicine?
a little tiny tincture, and you can keep it in your back pocket.
Cool. Now, with that, what's a standard protocol? What's the time frame of something like this?
You're looking at about 4 to 6 months on the lobelia, because unfortunately, it depends. Most people that come in, they've been smoking for 20 years. They've tried everything. So I haven't had any new smokers, but individuals that have been smoking from 20 to 30 years, they come in, and in about 4 to 6 months, we've got them to the point where they're quit. and they don't
Wow.
even want to pick up another cigarette again. They're so disgusted by it, which is amazing.
Which is
so
amazing.
the lobelia cleans it all out with the mullein, and it gets rid of the addiction.
So the mullein is in a sense detoxifying the lungs, getting the
yes,
and the lobelia is for the brain.
Yeah.
It's basically, yeah. So you're coming at it from two ends. Awesome, fantastic. Okay, so respiratory. What are some triggers? Like we talk mucus, like you talk food. Obviously, there's allergens, there's seasonal things. Environmental plays a big thing. What are you seeing?
Different pathogens, obviously diet and things like that, and just not taking care of your respiratory system. This can turn into once our temperature changes a little bit, you're a little bit more run down, you're not getting the sleep that you need. Boom, you've got bronchitis, or a pathogen enters, and now the respiratory system, the ecosystem's a little bit weakened. So now you've got pneumonia, you've got, bronchitis. Asthma is actually from dehydration of the respiratory system. So in the mitochondria of the cell of the respiratory system, when you're not able to absorb negative charged water, you develop asthma. So as soon as you start drinking negative charged water and remove the mucus forming foods, the asthma is eradicated. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
So we get a lot of individuals that are on puffers, steroid puffers, things like that. And unfortunately, those are just blocking, and they're actually making it worse. You're not going to be able to get off of them if you don't get on the negative charged water and clean up the diet. Wow. They go in conjunction. You have to do them together.
Last week we talked Candida. Is there a bridge between that and mucus and that inflammation?
That's a really good question. So think of mucus as like a shelter. Mucus is where the bad Candida, fungus, mold, pathogens, parasites, bacteria can all hide away and can populate. Because your immune system, your white blood cells, can't physically enter the mucus to get the bad bugs. So it's an environment where they can just keep growing, and then the inflammation keeps rising. So what you need to bring in herbs, because herbs will go down and they will break down the layers of mucus so that your immune system can go in there and give the full attack.
So the more mucus we have, the more of a safe haven it is for all the bad stuff, bacteria, Candida, all of that.
And if you look, wintertime is when all the comfort foods, all the mac and cheese and and so people, they love their dairy in the winter. Yes, they love it in the summer, but, I have noticed just with patients and things like that, they go for the comfort foods in the winter.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We all go for the heavier things in the wintertime.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting, right? And then it shows you the mindset, how that plays. Because then in the summer, everyone's like, oh, I'll have a salad.
Yeah.
Well, why can't you have a salad in the wintertime?
Yeah.
It's just, right? A big Guinness stew. Okay, so the Candida. So respiratory care triggers.
And just to add to that, if I may, having a clean environment is so important. If you don't do the constant deep cleaning on your home, you start noticing that you're developing a lot of dust, or you're developing a lot of debris around your home, and you have black mold growing or asbestos, like you can't live in that environment. I've been to some people's houses and I've seen black mold on the walls and things like that, and that's in an environment that they live in. And you have to remember that when you breathe in those spores, they're actually growing along the lining of your lungs, your respiratory system, and you won't be well. You will be unwell if you live in a very dirty environment. So whoever's watching, that's for you.
So clean
home.
But it's true though. I mean, I know for me, just when my asthma was bad when I was younger, it was always an environmental thing, like depending on where I was and whose house I was at, and the airborne stuff and the dust and all of that. So it does play a role for sure. Well, what can we do? So why don't we do this, Ariel? Let's just recap for us. I want to talk those 4 pillars again because we need to nail this home. Obviously, a lot of people have different forms of respiratory conditions. So,
and I have some
always,
herbs to hack those conditions that we'll
yeah,
chat after.
right. And no matter what the condition, COPD, asthma, bronchitis, whatever.
Pneumonia.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They can all be linked to these 4 pillars and stuff. So give us the rundown again of that, please.
So when it comes to, we understand the 4 pillars. So we got to drink, 1 liter for every 50 pounds we weigh in negative charged water. If it's positive charged coming from your tap or a bottled filtration system, your cells are not absorbing it efficiently. The second thing is we need 7 hours to 9 hours a night of good sleep, so that we can allow our cells to restore and to expel waste. The third thing is our diet needs to be avoidance of mucus forming foods, especially if we have a respiratory sensitivity. The fourth thing is exercise, whether that be going for a brisk walk, doing some jumping jacks, doing some push-ups, but just making sure that you're doing some heavy breathing and so that you can expel the waste. And so those are just maintenance. You have to do that every single day. When it comes to something now that's a bit more chronic and you've noticed that the inflammation is starting to rise and now we have a situation, maybe we have bronchitis, pneumonia, we have COPD, we have asthma, whatever that might be, then this is for you. So when it comes to pneumonia, we actually have an in-house tincture. And so we actually would get you on pleural roosie root with YS formula. They're 2 tinctures and you need to take them and they work. So if the individual, if their pneumonia there's different types of pneumonia, there's viral, bacterial, whatever that might be, then we will add in the ivermectin, which is an amino acid that comes from soil. And yes, you can use it on animals, but we have the human grade. And so it's dependent on your weight and medications. There's no negative side effects to this. And so it is amazing when you are needing restoration for your respiratory system. When it comes to congestion or mucus in the lungs or in the sinuses, then obviously we know the mullein. If you need to help quit smoking, the lobelia. If you have COPD, then we need to open up those airways. We need to get the oxygen flowing. And so we have a herb called fenugreek and thyme with eucalyptus and SNX. SNX actually removes any blockage or infection that can be in the prefrontal cortex of the brain. So this area, because what happens is sometimes people will have an infection that just won't go away. It's kind of there and it lingers. And it's like, no matter what they do, it doesn't seem to go away. And that's actually because there's a pathogen that's creating inflammation up in the prefrontal cortex, and it's dripping infection down into the sinuses. And that's why your low grade infection doesn't seem to go away. So SNX pulls out the infection from the sinus cavernous. And then we also need to take into account that you need to have proper lung function. You need to take magnesium. Most people forget about magnesium. If you don't know which kind to take, because there's so many different kinds, then reach out to us. And it depends on how much to take as well, because you might not be taking enough. I take 10 magnesium a day. Most people don't take enough. So it depends on your exercise level.
Okay, that was great recap. Obviously, again, Vitality can offer some comfort for a variety of respiratory conditions. I want to, though, just finish up. We got a couple short minutes here. Magnesium. What does it do for the lungs? Why is it such a crucial thing?
So because your lungs have a few things going on. A, the cells need to talk to each other. B, there needs to be entrance and exit. So entrance of good, exit of waste. Right. And C, actual movement, right? The lungs need to move. They're like air sacs. So there's a lot going on with your bronchioles and your alveoli and all that fun stuff. So when it comes to movement of cells, you need the magnesium to keep things loose and to keep things open. If your magnesium is too low, you have contraction. That's why we get Charlie horses, or we'll get, our muscles will contract. It's because our magnesium is too low. magnesium relaxes the muscle, calcium contracts the muscle. And so when it comes to your respiratory system, making sure your magnesium levels are high enough so that everything's relaxed and the airways are open.
Makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I know for when my girls with leg cramps, restless legs, it's usually magnesium, right? To
Yeah,
relax. So interesting.
to relax
Cool.
it.
I never put it with lung function per se, right? So that's interesting. Thank you for that. Okay, gang. Ariel, that was amazing. For you smokers out there, or if you know people that smoke, and we know the devastating effects, Vitality can certainly give you or your friend, loved one some help on that. So
Absolutely.
yeah, and Ariel, thank you. Respiratory is a powerful thing. We all need to breathe. Breath is life.
Yep.
Period. Right. So let's get our pumps working effectively so we all can show up and be better, and have fun, and do our things in life that we're all meant to and should be doing. So
Better quality of life.
absolutely. Ariel Jarvis, Vitality Wellness, you are amazing. Thank you. And
Thank you so much.
thank you. We'll see everyone back next Monday. All right. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.